evening and welcome to Forge from Iron and another episode of Hammer Time of Our Lives. I'm Duke. Mr. Anonymous is Mr. Gates. How are you, sir?
I'm not doing too bad, thank you, my friend. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm just thinking this is the best you've looked for a while on screen, my friend. I'm not. I hope you don't find that being rude of me, but you look good
No,
tonight.
not at all. Not at all.
So, how you been, mate? You all right?
Yeah. Just sort of keeping my head down, ducking and diving as you do. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Wait, can't wait to get tomorrow at work out the way, and then it's on to the weekend.
Indeed, and we'll discuss that tomorrow. And the last person to bring in, as always, the man whose idea this was for this fantastic series that we're doing is Andy Miles. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, mate. I'm fine. I've got to do 3 hours work tomorrow, and I'm going back down the pub.
Oh, careful.
I'm getting the hump with you. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not fair. You know what I mean? You're just taking the piss now. It's not fair.
You're just jealous.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, massively. Listen, I live in a pub. Let's not mess around. But it's not like going down the pub, is it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, boys, this evening. Good evening, Katie. Thank you for joining us. Well, I mean, I might as well press the button there, Katie. I put that one up. Don't worry about it. We are going to be talking about 1989, 1990.
Katie, it's probably not a bad thing that I have no face, to be fair.
Let's not mess around. 89-90. This season holds some special significance for me, as we'll go into a bit later. Gatesy, take your foot off the dog's neck.
Yeah.
Or put your sausage away. I'm not sure what she's barking for. To be fair.
She's after the ball.
Well, I mean, that's a whole different conversation, mate. Knock yourself out, whatever you got to do.
And we're live, ladies and gentlemen.
Listen, something always happens live in Gatesy's house. It's normally, anyway, we'll leave it. So 89-90, boys, was a season of a few shocks, if I'm being honest, and from what I remember, and obviously going back and doing the bits and pieces over the week for this channel. So obviously, Gatesy, you've got a picture to bring up about Mr. Lyle.
Yeah. So John Lyle was obviously the manager for the best part of 14, 15 years. He'd been at the club for 34 years in total as an apprentice. Then as a player, he had his career cut short by a bad knee injury. And back in those days, they didn't have the medical science that they now have. It probably would have been a relatively simple procedure nowadays. But back in those days, that was his lot, really. He then was coaching at the club. He then assisted Ron Greenwood, who then made him the manager in 1974. And then obviously in 1975, won the FA Cup. 76 Cup Winners' Cup runners-up, so on and so forth. 1980 FA Cup, 1986 Boys of 86, and a fantastic servant to the club. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of people thought that he was treated quite harshly. I mean, don't forget, this is well before the Premier League came into being. It was a completely different time. Nowadays, a manager gets a team, or not maybe gets a team relegated, but is with a team as they get relegated, and an awful lot of the time the trigger's pulled on them. But a lot of fans were quite disappointed at the time. I remember my dad was quite gutted that he was out. But you'll notice there that there's a certain person that was linked to the job, guys.
Yeah, I mean, you can see his name there. I mean, I'll be honest. Part of that picture that really annoys me is the hammer falling onto him now. It's obviously newspaper stuff, but it always bugged me. Like you say, he was a great servant to the club, and And Andy, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I know you don't remember, obviously, Lyle being at the club and everything else,
Yeah.
due to not being born and shit. But I mean, even you can imagine the type of guy, and knowing that the way, obviously, you hear about the way he's spoken about and everything else, you're aware he's obviously held in such high regard amongst the fans of the club.
Yeah, no, that's the reason, like I said, why I want to do shows like this, and like you said, it's like a catch up, and you can people like you, Gatesy, people in the chat, they can bring back their memories of what they are as well. But the fact that I remember a few games, even now on some away games and stuff, what you go to, you hear John Lyle mentioned or one song like the same as Billy Bonds and Bobby Moore and etc. That's when you know that players are on that sort of level. And yeah, just a great servant for the club, and very unfortunate, but he'll never forget. He'll never forget what he done for the club. Really, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, like Gatesy says there, guys. Like I say, 88, 89. Get involved in the chat. We'll bring up as many comments as we can as we go. Obviously, we're going to talk, or sorry, let me rephrase that. The two boys are going to talk about their their three key games from the season. I've only picked two. I'll be honest with you, both for very different reasons, and both very different situations for me. I'm going to go with you, Andy. I'm going to bring you up first. I might do the same sort of situation last week, where
Yeah,
I alternate between you and Gatesy for
yeah, no,
one on one, etc., etc. So
yeah,
just quickly before we do go into that, obviously this season we finished seventh. Obviously it saw John Lyle's departure, and it was our first season in what was the old Division Two. Um, Ince actually played the first game of the season, and there was some obviously the fallout from his some picture being taken and leaked in the newspaper. Macari didn't make it. I think it was about not even halfway through the season, maybe a little bit longer, before he was turfed out, and the legend that is Billy Bonds came in and obviously took over the hot seat. And three players came in this season that could quite easily be described as legends. We'll touch on those as obviously we go. Gatesy, I have no doubt that you've got a couple of games where you're going to mention their names, Andy, you as well.
yeah.
So let's get into it then. Andy, your first game for me.
Yeah, so this game for me is the Middlesbrough game. So when I watched the season review back in bed on Sunday, this game really stuck to mind. It wasn't on for too long, but it was more to do with the way it come across and the way people were talking. So Martin Allen come back from injury, and this was his first game back, and Mark Ward played up front that game. According to the commentator, anyway, I don't. He was heavily involved, but West Ham, as usual, we exactly like what we are doing this season at the minute. First goal after 8 minutes, really work goal. Kevin King again. Whenever I see him this season, he's just involved in everything, and he was just like a little lapdog, really, and just managed to nick the ball from Middlesbrough just inside their half and just started weaving his way through challenges. It was amazing, to be honest. Amazing sort of run, and that's the striking instinct. I know it was Slater who scored the goal, but at the minute West Ham doesn't really have them players who just run behind the defenders. Do you know what I mean? Like, just have the intelligence. And King just put a scrape through pass, and Slater went round the keeper and slotted it in. It was a really well worked goal. And the one thing is, what I've really noticed on these season reviews is how much I missed Upton Park. You just hear the crowd. Do you know what I mean? It literally is. It's just an amazing atmosphere. Like, considering the quality wasn't good back then on the videos, but all you can hear is West Ham singing, and it does bring a tear to your eye every now and again. But in the 59th minute, Paris picked up the ball in the edge of the area and just started making a great run. and gave the ball to Brady. I think everyone said this sort of season was Brady's best year. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was this really his best season, or not? Or is it a bit of a?
To be fair, it probably was, but that was probably because it was in the second tier of English football, whereas his previous 2 seasons were in the top tier. So, it's probably more to do with the opposition. I mean, don't get me wrong, Liam Brady was a fantastic player. He sort of like lots of caps for the Republic of Ireland, made his name at Arsenal before he went to Italy and went to a few clubs and played with great aplomb. However, by the time he come to us, he was, I think, 32, something like that. So his best days were behind him, but he was still a good player for us, to be fair. And you're right. This probably was his best season in a claret and blue shirt, in my opinion.
But
he certainly was. He certainly was outstanding.
Yeah.
I mean, he's involved. He was involved in quite a few goals. He's certainly involved in a goal in one of my games that I've got today. From what I remember watching, and this is really, as I was saying last week, I think when we were talking about coming into this week is the one that where I do remember and start to remember games as from my childhood. So this was the first season, but I do remember Brady, like Gatesy said, it may well have been because it was Division 2, but the guy was outstanding. His ball control, the pinging of the passes and everything else. I mean, for me, he was outstanding.
Yeah, so like I said, he was heavily involved. He took the ball off Paris and just started driving down the left hand side, and he just pinged this magnificent ball over to Martin Allen. I couldn't believe it. It was literally like a little golf chip over, and then Martin Allen headed the ball onto Paris, who just started driving in the box. And when I mean taken out, he was literally the defender. I don't even know why he made that challenge, but yeah, he took the penalty. He got the penalty. And do I really need to explain what happened? Our left back stepped up, run up, and just smashed the ball straight down the middle. And we were 2-0 up and cruising. Or was we? No, we really wasn't in this game. As the commentator said, the very old goalkeeper kept West Ham in it. And when I mean he did, it reminded me of when you think of old keepers, like for me growing up, it's now like it literally was like a David Seaman save. The Middlesbrough player just hit a half volley from the edge of the box. Parks managed to save it onto the post, and then the ball rebounded back out to the Middlesbrough player, back where the penalty spot was. Looked like he was going to smash it into an open net, and Parks managed to slide along and managed to save it. And I'm guessing that wasn't good for his knees, but he kept West Ham in it, and we managed to win 2-0. And it might not be like the most entertaining, it might not sound it, but no, for me that was the game what stood out for me that season.
Good choice. I mean, Phil Parks was an outstanding goalkeeper. Again, when I did my Hammers 11 with Rust over on his YouTube channel, I picked Parks' replacement, really, long-term replacement, should we say? And Gatesy, you'll bring him up in one of your games, if I remember rightly. And for me, Parks was a fantastic servant. He's been around the club. He's still around the club now. He does a lot of the tours. He does a lot of the hospitality stuff, and he's fantastic. Really nice guy. And looks like my dad. So I mean, I'm certainly not going to argue with that. Or should I say, my dad looks like him? Probably not now. Probably Parks has still got all his teeth. Casey, your first game, sir.
Okay, so I have chosen the game away to Swindon Town. Now, let me just find it. Hang on. Is that the one? Yeah. Okay, so that's the match card from it. This was an interesting game, if for nothing else, that Lou Macari was obviously going back to his old team, or was he? He was implicated in a little bit of a betting scandal in his time at Swindon, which obviously came to light during his time with us. And just around the time, he actually never travelled to Swindon, so the story goes, and he offered his resignation around that time. So taking charge of the team that day was a certain Mr. William Bonds and a Mr. Ronald Boyce. You may have heard of them. And making his debut for West Ham in this particular fixture was Ludo McCloskey.
There he is.
And he comes from near Moscow, apparently.
Oi,
Well, I've looked
your
on Google,
name?
yeah, I've looked on Google Maps, and I got to say, the Czech Republic is nowhere near Moscow, but you know it worked as far as the song was concerned, so that's all that matters. So yeah, so this was obviously, like I say, Ludo's debut. I think Jimmy Quinn also he'd signed just shortly before Macari left, and yeah. So anyway, onto the goal scoring. In the first half of the match, Kevin Keane, our tricky little winger, was dribbling down the left-hand side. He was tackled, but he then managed to recover the ball. He offloaded the ball to the left touch line. I don't know who the player was. I don't know if it might have been Stuart Robson, but the commentary, I got to be honest, isn't very good, and the pictures were a little bit grainy. He offloaded it to the player on the touchline, who then played a ball in. It dropped to Jimmy Quinn, who from 25 yards hits a right foot drive low past the goalkeeper into the bottom right-hand corner. I think the goalkeeper might have been Fraser Digby, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But so that put West Ham 1-0 up. Still in the first half, David Kerslake, who was Swindon Town's right back at the time, he was charging down the right-hand side, West Ham's left, obviously. He plays a cross into the box. There's a bit of a ping pong. The ball sort of like, no one can really get hold of it. It then drops in the 6-yard box to Steve White, who was their top goal scorer, who put away the chance, swept it away to make it 1-1. I think they said on commentary that was his 18th goal of the season. So he was fairly prolific at that level. And that was how it stayed until half time. We then get into the second half and excuse me, Swindon Town get a free kick, which is inside the D. McLaren steps up, hits the free kick. Really and truly, this should have been a routine save for Ludo. However, on his debut, made a little bit of an error. Should have done an awful lot better with the free kick. It went past him, and that was 2-1 down. However, further into the second half, there's a cross from our left flank, Swindon's right, towards the penalty box, and lurking just outside the box was Stuart Robson, who got up and played a header from right to left into the penalty box. Jimmy Quinn's making a move into the box. He gets his head to it, and the header loops up and over and drops sort of like in the top left-hand corner of the net for the equalising goal to make it 2-2, which is how the match stayed.
Very uncharacteristic, if I remember, very uncharacteristic of Ludo. I mean,
Yeah,
he went on.
It was quite. I guess sort of like you're probably looking at a goalkeeper making his debut, and obviously bear in mind this is around the time that the Berlin Wall fell, and Eastern European players coming to England was just something that didn't really happen. So there was, I guess, there was a lot of mystique about Eastern European players in general. And there we are. We've got a Czechoslovakian goalkeeper, because Czechoslovakia did exist at the time, now become the Czech Republic and Slovakia. But yeah, I mean, the free kick, you look at it and it's like, mate, really, he should have stopped it, but he went on to be a fantastic goalkeeper for us, in all fairness. But that wasn't a great start, I think it's fair to say.
I just want to point out, Mark is bringing the facts tonight in the chat. He is
Yeah,
absolutely
he's
loving life with his
yeah.
with his factoids from
Keep it
from
coming,
this.
Mark. We love it.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm not going to lie to you. It was nice to know that you remember when I first appeared in EastEnders with Gatesy, though. That's fantastic.
More like the
Get in the
Chuckle
Mark
Yeah,
Brothers.
Club.
More like the Chuckle Brothers.
listen.
Steady, steady.
I mean, yeah, Ludek McCloskey, and I think it all, as you said there, mate. He goes on and he has an absolutely phenomenal career as a West Ham player. You know, coming up on the seasons that we're going to be talking about, and you know, certain seasons that, like I say, as we go forward, I remember there's lots of snippets and memories that come back to me. Conversations with
Yeah,
my granddad in certain games, who was a big Newcastle fan, was born in Newcastle, and so there was a lot of banter between me and him as I grew up, and you know, God rest his soul now. I do miss the talk about football as you know as I've got
yeah,
older, but you know, doing this it brings back the memories and the conversations that we had. Um, I'm actually going to go backwards with my games, and I'm actually going to start with the second one. And you'll realise the reason behind this as we get
yeah.
to my main game of the season. But my game, and I know we haven't got nothing for it, and that's completely my fault. And Casey, I'm sorry. My game is actually where our League Cup run went absolutely tits up. And I've got nothing for you other than it went tits up. It went tits up on a horrible rainy night away at Boundary Park. It was on Valentine's Day in 1990, and my God, it was a Valentine's Day massacre.
I
I
remember
remember
going to
listening
school
to
the next day. It was awful.
it,
I got
mate.
the
I think
piss
I mentioned
ripped
this
out of
last
me.
week. Yeah, listen, we both did. I mean, mine came from my teachers. I don't know whether we did it live last week when I spoke about my old teacher. I went into school the next day and he gave me a load of just stuff, and he put it all in my arms, piled it all up, and I stood there for a few minutes before he went, "Oh, I just thought you might want to hold them." And you know, it was I suffered all of
That's
that
cruel.
for days. For days, I suffered that.
That's cruel.
Um,
You don't do that to a 16-year-old.
You're such a, I can't say it. I can't say it. We're live. Um, but no, I mean it was an absolute 6-0. Mark, I am so sorry. If Mark's got PTSD, he's having flashbacks. It
Did you
really ain't
take
good
the
for him
did you
right
take the
now.
message, Mark? Happy Valentine's Day.
Trust me, it was. And I know, like from listening to the game, I listened to the game on Capital Gold, and where I used to live when I was in what was I? Would have been 11 at the time of this game. I was 12 in the November, and I remember sitting outside the front room where we lived, down at the bottom of the stairs, because it was the only place I could get signal on my radio, on an old radio like set, and I listened to 1548 Capital Gold, Jonathan Pearson and the likes that have graced those airwaves, and I just for me the one name that sticks out in that, and I know he didn't, I think he only did he score three, I think, was Andy Ritchie. Again, there's some similarities going on. But he just absolutely annihilated us that night. And again, I've got nothing else to offer other than I just remember sitting at the bottom of the stairs and crying because it was humiliating. It was absolutely humiliating. You know, these guys that I absolutely idolised going to a rain-soaked sandy carpet at Bantry Park, and it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking to listen to. It ended up 6-0. Um, yeah, the second leg we beat them 3-0, and I remember listening to that again on Capital Gold, and that was nearly I think that was 3 weeks later, the second leg. So it was kind of like It was a long time to wait between, the first and the second leg then. And I remember, the goals going in. And I remember when Dix got the penalty, I kind of was like, oh, oh, it could happen. It could happen. And then, as the game went on, you could just see it wasn't going to. And to lose 6-3 to Oldham, that one game just sticks. Like it's part of the fabric at the back of my brain now that it was horrible as an 11-year-old boy. And like I say, going into school the next day was shocking. Gatesy, you like you say, you remember going into school?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of my mates at school were Chelsea fans or Liverpool fans. Interesting enough, there wasn't any Manchester City fans knocking around here at school back in the day. But
I can't imagine, mate. I can't imagine why.
No, it's quite interesting that. Yeah. Now I around my local area, it's not uncommon to see Man City fans. It's quite funny. I can't work it out why now that they're sort of very successful, winning Premier Leagues, FA Cups, League Cups, left, right, and centre, and are backed by a multi-billion-dollar sheikh. Why all of a sudden people are supporting them? But anyway, that's another story. Getting a bit controversial there. But yeah, I remember that game, and I believe I don't know if that was Phil Parkes' last game or it was one of his last games as West Ham goalkeeper. But not a pleasant way to have one of your last games or your last game for a club that you were an absolute legend for. I don't know if you. If any of you guys saw the question that I had on the quiz, and I didn't realise this until I was doing some research for it, but did you know that Phil Parkes is the only person in English football history to have over 400 appearances for two different clubs?
Wow.
No,
he had over 400 appearances for us. I'm talking in all competitions. 400 over 400 appearances for us and over 400 appearances for QPR, and he's the only person in English football history to achieve that feat with two different clubs.
Wow,
that's madness. That's a lot of games.
Yeah. There you go.
No, I mean you say there, mate, about it not being nice for it being one of your last games of a club that you spend so long at. Can't imagine it'd be nice for any goalkeeper at any point in his career to have concede 6. Especially. I mean, the pitch wasn't the greatest. It was, it's not like the third generation, rubber crumb kind of pitches we have now. This was literally concrete, green carpet covered in sand. Like I say, you go for a slide tackle on one of them pitches, you needed third-degree burn.
All the goalkeepers used to wear tracky bottoms, didn't they, Duke? You never had a goalkeeper
even
wearing shorts.
Even some of the players, outfield players, used to wear tracky bottoms, mate. If I remember, nice, Cal, nice. I remember. I mean, and they played in what were essentially, I know we call them AstroTurf trainers, but even some of them were even just wearing just trainers. There was, you couldn't wear nothing else on that kind of surface.
Yeah,
it was horrible. I mean, I played on several as I grew up. I played on several as a grown up, and listen, you can take football off of a pitch and put it on that stuff, but you can't stop playing football when you get on it. And if the ball is there to be won in a slide tackle, the sad thing is you do slide in, and instantly the second you go for that slide and you realise that there's no coming back from it, you do realise it's game over. And there's nothing worse than getting in the bath after sliding on one of those carpets, because it comes all back to you the second you get in the hot water. For those of you watching, if you ever get a chance to play on that, don't slide. Please don't slide.
Mark, just put the comment there, Duke. Just before you move on, Mark just put the comment there that he thinks it was Parkes and Devonshire's last match. As I say, I know it would have been one of Parkes' last matches if it wasn't his last. I didn't realise it was Alan Devonshire's. What a way if that was their last game. What a way for two legends to bow out. I mean, that's terrible.
very much legends, mate. Yeah, I mean, but then you've got that situation where it was that tail end of their careers, and it all has to come to an end sometime. Good evening,
Yeah.
Simon. Evening, Cal. How you doing, guys? Gatesy's taken a night off of camera. Unfortunately, he had a fake tan and it's a bit streaky on his face. That's the excuse I'm using, and I'm sticking with it.
No, I'm here, Si. I'm here. I'm just hiding.
Yeah, no. Talking of AstroTurfs, I've got a couple of memories. It was an Essex Cup game, and we had to go it was like somewhere like in Rayleigh, and we turned up and we didn't know it was an AstroTurf pitch. So I was like, what the hell? This was like a semi-final, and I didn't have the right boots, so I had to play in trainers and everything. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to go for it. Didn't realise playing left back at the time, done a sliding tackle, and literally all my skin on the back of my legs just ripped off. And I know exactly what you mean, because no matter what you put on it, it didn't didn't help one bit. But no. And talking of the goalkeepers as well, I've met Phil Parkes a couple of times at the Legends Land when I was in Upton Park, and he always had time. I've but no, he always made time. Do you remember? Do you know normally they go, the players will be there between 1 and 2:30. He used to get there at 11. He used to get there at 11 o'clock.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he used to get there at 11 and literally walk around. And like I said, I've said it so many times. When he shook my hand shrunk in his hand. It was yeah. But no, I can't wait for. I literally can't wait for him to be on. But Russ is waiting to do it live when Parksy on his 1 to 11. So that's what he's waiting for. So that's what I'm looking forward to more than anything else as well. So.
I mean, to be fair, Mark, I might have told Macari to do one at that moment in time. To be perfectly honest with you, I wouldn't have fancied that. Regardless, it was such an upsetting game. I'm not going to lie to you. It was such an upsetting game. Like I say, 11 years old, listening to my heroes take an absolute hiding from some team that then I really hadn't even heard of. It was awful. Moving on before I get PTSD and flashbacks. Andy, your next game, please.
Yeah, my second game is a New Year's Day cracker at Upton Park, where we won 4-2 against Barnsley. And and a couple of stats for you. You can, if anyone's got great eyesight, you can see it there as well. But I was Jimmy Quinn's debut after moving from Bradford. He made it, and it was Trevor Morley and Ian Bishop's home debut. This game was. It was a very very good game, to be honest. And we scored after 4 minutes. Steve Potts picked the ball up just in at the West Ham half and just done a route one ball, and Quinn was straight involved, tossing him with the defender, and the Barnsley defender managed to get a head on it and headed the ball out. But literally, if anyone wants to watch this, I'll put the video in the comments after. And if anyone wants to watch this goal, Alan with an amazing half volley on the outside of the box. Literally, he just smashed it straight in the top corner. And do you know, when the players just look like, what's going on, and then he just started doing his mad run. But yeah, no, it was a very very good goal, and we started very well. A few moments later, we went 2-0 up. Great build up, and Keane got given the ball on the left hand side, and it was just great build up, and great play from Morley, and then this goal literally reminds me of Paul Konchesky.
So we'll come back to that. I'll cover that later. Ignore that.
Sorry. This guy, the West Ham second goal literally reminds me of Paul Konchesky's goal in the FA Cup final. What Kevin Keane scored, he was just running on the left hand side, and literally the cross shot off the back of the post, And yeah, it was a
Swings
great.
a boot.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was a great, great build up, and literally we got the third goal after 42 minutes. Another route run ball, Morley with the flick on, and Kevin Keane from the edge of the box done a delicate little chip over the goalkeeper, and we were cruising into the second half. A poor corner. The commentator didn't say who it was, but literally it was like who's been crap for corners? Literally like a West Ham corner this season, straight to the first man, but it went straight back out to him. Ball come back in, handball, penalty. Do I really need to say what happened? Do you need me to? Julian Dick stepped up to score his 7th goal of the season, smashed it straight in the top right-hand corner, and then I thought we was going to do a Spursy really because it didn't tell me the score. Barnsley got some 2 late goals, pretty much carbon copy from both of them. Headers from the 6-yard box, bit squeaky bum time. But yeah, West Ham managed to hold on to the win. The reason, like I said, was 2 great players making their 2 players making their home debut and 1 making their debut, and I knew how crucial they were to us. So that was the main reason why I picked it as well.
Gatesy, am I right in thinking, seeing as we don't have any Kent tonight, Morley and Bishop came in on a deal, didn't they? Was it Mark Ward went the other way? Was it Man City?
Yes. Wardy had something of a falling out with Mr. Macari. If you listen to stories that Mark Ward tells of Lou Macari, I think one of the more kind descriptions that he gave of Lou Macari was he was, quote, a little prick.
Oh, Mark Ward?
I mean,
no. Mark Ward described Lou Macari as a little prick.
Fair enough.
So I don't think he was exactly flavour of the month with Wardy, and he wanted out. And I was told in the last week, and it may have been Kent himself, but I could be wrong, said apparently, and I didn't realise this, Mark Ward went on strike. Now, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's something someone said, that he went on strike before he was shipped off to Main Road, ladies and gentlemen, not the Etihad, Main Road. They had a
Main Road, what the stadium.
I only ever went there once.
Stand, wasn't it?
Yeah, I only ever went there once. I went there for an FA Cup game in about 97, 98. We played them.
Was that when Lomas scored?
Yes. Yeah, Lomas scored. I don't know if Berkovic scored for us, and also Georgie Kincladze got a goal for them. But
wrong year, boys,
anyway,
wrong year.
Yeah, I know. I was just about to say, but we fast forwarded a little bit. But,
sorry, but that goal
I
just remember that goal.
It was a swap, more or less, for Wardy for Morley and Bishop. I don't know if there was any further money involved or whether it was a straight swap. To be honest, I can't remember.
Okay, see, there's one at the bottom for you. Mark says.
Oh, it was you, Mark. Okay, apologies. I knew someone told me. It was reported Ward refused to travel to Villa for a cup tie beginning of the end. Yeah, as I say, Mark, I remember sort of seeing interviews with Mark Ward in more recent times where he tells that he just didn't see eye to eye with Lou Macari for whatever reason. So I'm not saying it's right. And, if he did go on strike, I obviously we know what happened with Payet and we was all up in arms over that. But I think, it's just one of those things, isn't it? If you've got sort of like a manager and a player that have a falling out, these things happen sometimes. So it is what it is.
I'll be honest, though. I think Cal's got the comment on the end there, guys. If you want to bring that up, and I couldn't disagree with him more. I couldn't agree with him more. Sorry. I think for me, we really did get the best out of that deal. Those 2 boys came in, and I just
then
think
Wardy was a great player as well. Wardy was one of the boys of 86.
I'm certainly not dissing Mark Ward, and I'm certainly not putting him down. But for what one man could offer we actually got in return two that offered just as much in a way going forward. For what Wardy had offered in the past and what Wardy had given us in the past. Bishop and Morley came in and gave just as much to us going forward. So, essentially two for the price of one. Don't get me wrong, I think Ward went up there and did well for City, if my memory serves me correctly. But I just think, for the deal that we got, one person giving 100%, we got two people that gave 100%. For me, I just think we got the better of the deal. I'm just going to quickly, Gatesy, before I hand off to you. Scott, it's outstanding. It is such a good show. It is 24 in the White House. That's the only way I can describe it. And Keith Sullivan is amazing in that show.
Is this Netflix or Prime?
It is. It's Netflix. It's amazing. It is absolutely top drawer. If you need something else, Scott, Scorpion is a good TV show. Scorpion is about a group of just geniuses. It's based on a true story. It's a 3 or 4 season set. Give it a watch. Anyway, enough of that. Gatesy, match 2.
Okay, so match 2 of my selection. Let's see if I can find it. This one here, I think. Yep. Okay, so this is the home fixture against Sheffield United, which ended in a 5-0 victory for us. So we start off in the first half. Ludo, recovering from his mistake at Swindon, has the ball in his hands in the penalty box, launches an absolute missile of a kick down, and it's just outside the box. Morley plays a 1-2 and drives it with his right foot into the bottom right of the goal. 1-0 West Ham. Obviously they haven't put the Sheffield United team there. I have a funny feeling the goalkeeper may have been Simon Tracy, who went there from Wimbledon a year or two earlier, but I could be wrong. But I'm fairly sure it was Simon Tracy. That was how it stayed until half time. Half time, we go in 1-0. We go into the second half. The ball comes to Trevor Morley, and he goes round the goalkeeper. He's got a defender at his back as well. And between the pair of them, he's brought down in the box. The referee points to the spot, gives the penalty. Jimmy Quinn steps up, not Julian Dix, and he puts it right foot into the top right-hand corner to make it 2-0 to West Ham. We then go on a little bit further. Stuart Slater. Now, Stuart Slater was involved in all 3 of these following goals. So just to paint the picture, Stuart Slater's on the left-hand side of the West Ham side of the pitch, and he's dribbling with the ball. He's sort of like moving towards the centre. He offloads the ball to Jimmy Quinn, who's in the box. He dummies. The keeper's sort of like sat down on his arse, and he just basically goes round the goalkeeper and very, very calmly just slots it in with his left foot. 3-0. And you can't really see any way back for Sheffield United at this stage. And there wasn't, because 2 more goals followed. Once again, Stuart Slater going on a mazy run from the left. He dribbles with the ball. He offloads the ball to Martin Allen, who breaks through the back line and one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Literally, it was like a toe poke, like a prod. You remember how Romario used to do it? You remember sort of like he made a career out of, toe poking the ball, but he was a magnificent player. I'm not saying Martin Allen was on the same level, but you know what I'm trying to say. So he prods it with his right foot, 4-0. And then the 5th goal, once again, it's that man, Stuart Slater, again cutting in from the left into the box. He's got the ball at his feet. He looks up. He cuts the ball back. Ian Bishop's outside the box. He has a shot. I think his shot's going wide, in fairness. However, in mid-flight, Jimmy Quinn manages to divert the ball into the net. He scored his hat-trick, 5-0 to West Ham. And everyone goes home from Upton Park happy, unless you're a Sheffield United fan.
Oh, well, that's such a shame. I mean, that's just punishment for future future problems that they caused us. Cal, I will, I promise, eventually. Probably not in the next few weeks while the pub's open. I
Kent's
yeah,
in.
I mean, listen, go on.
Kent's in the
Ken's
building.
in. Ken's arrived just after I needed him. Or just when I needed him. It's all right. I Gatesy. I mean, you said there Jimmy Quinn took the penalties, and yeah, I mean, it's surprising not to see the big man take them. You know,
Because I don't think, if just looking back here,
he didn't play, did he?
Dixie, I think this may have been because didn't he? Is that sort of like around the time he did his knee, or was that the following season? I'm trying to remember. It was either this season or the following season.
You're asking the wrong man. There's a man in the chat that might give you the answer to that.
Yeah. Kent will be in there.
He'll know.
He actually has said, is confirmed it was indeed Simon Tracy. He was Sheffield United's goalkeeper for the early Premier League years. Yes, I remember him and Alan Kelly, who I believe there's a connection there for West Ham because I think Alan Kelly's father, Alan Kelly, was the goalkeeper for Preston North End in the 1964 FA Cup final.
Alan?
Useless bit of information.
Says it was the following season.
It was the following season.
Following season.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. It was either this season or the following. I couldn't remember. And then I thought, as he says that, I was like, no, hang on. It couldn't have been this season because he was on the pitch on the last game getting the Hammer of the Year award. But that's another story.
And there's that one there, Gatesy, from Mark after his and more there.
Oh, that
Tommy
one.
McQueen's final last home appearance.
What a legend he was for West Ham.
Yes.
Yep. He was Preston's goalkeeper. It was his father. Yep.
I'm going to save my one. For the end because it's a game that means it's a game that really does mean so much to me, and I want to be able to do it justice. And I keep trying to. There's bits that keep coming back to me about the day itself. So I'm going to save that one. Andy, give me your game number 3, please. I enjoy listening to yours and Gatesy's your commentary. I love it.
Yeah. So
I want to get a sheepskin when I do this one day. I want to get the old sheepskin, the old John Motson, and the old the microphone that you have to hold to your lip.
And the mic.
And you join us here at Wembley Stadium, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
Yeah, sort of like that.
What about that?
If that's your best motto, we've got problems.
Yeah, I know. We could get that properly.
I could always do a Martin Tyler. Aguero!
I swear. Anyway.
Yeah, go on. Casey's got off on one. We've lost him.
The dog's you're going to hear the dogs in a minute.
That's no way to speak about my wife.
Oh.
He's at it again, boys and girls. I don't know if you just heard that. Not only in a previous stream did he call her a hippo, he's now just called her a dog. All right, Gatesy.
Do you know any good divorce lawyers?
What suits? They're good. They're good at that. We've gone way off topic. Right. So my game was the Brighton game, which sort of mixes in with the games what Gatesy has sort of done. Mine's on the 10th of February, and this was a 3-1 win against Brighton. And the commentator, like I said at the start of the game, said this was West Ham's 10 days of like nightmare, basically. So I'm guessing this must have been Macari's last win or involvement, the way they were talking about it. But we'll talk about that after I give my detailed look of the game. West Ham didn't get off to a good start, to be honest. We were 1-0 down. The ball come in, a flick on at the front post, and the defender at the back post just had a free header, and we had the worst possible start, really. not really good. But in the start of the second half, Quinn scores his second goal for West Ham after getting a rebound from I can't remember who it was. The commentator didn't really say it, but someone just tried to chip the goalkeeper from quite far out, and the goalkeeper managed to parry it onto the crossbar. But then it went to Quinn, who just slotted the ball home, and literally, right, it just proves what it was like. And I really do agree with what they say, the passion what the players showed back then. Literally, as soon as he scored, he run into the crowd, and so did all the players, literally all of them. And that must just be a good feeling. The fact that players do that. I know pretty much you could get away with it more in that day, but the fact that the passion what the players showed back then, that's what I love. I love doing these shows. Really, it's just amazing to see. But yeah, Dick's made it 2-1 with he picked up the ball just from Bishop, who played the ball into him from halfway, and literally just kept driving with the ball through the centre of the pitch like Dixie does, and then just unleashed his shot. I think it was probably going in the other corner, but it took a big deflection off the centre half and went in the top corner in the left hand side instead. But Dixie done what I said, what Quinn done. The celebration, what they do, that just sticks to mind, and Dix just does what he does best, really. And we were quite comfortable in the game. And then to make the day complete, Quinn got his second goal of the game. Kevin Keane on the left hand side whipped a great ball in, and it's them ones like where Andy Carroll just used to thrive. It's between the penalty box and the 6-yard box, where the goalkeeper, if they come, they're not getting there, and if the defender gets there, he just managed to loop the ball over, and the Hammers went on to win 3-1. But yeah, like I said, Kemp may be able to comment, and Gatesy, you said sort of remember. Like I said, that probably was Macari's last win in charge of the Hammers.
Yeah, I think it would have been around that time for sure.
But yeah, no, that was my choice of game. Just like the build up, and like I said, I just loved that kit back then, especially for that year. That was just a great kit as well. And yeah, they were my 3 games, gents.
Some cracking games there, mate. Really, really good choices. You mentioned a couple of my favourite players there. Obviously, the man up behind me was obviously is my West Ham hero, Julian Dix. But you've mentioned a couple in there with Kevin Keane, Stuart Slater, absolutely like fabulous players. Loved watching them play. Proper, like you say, old school wingers. Andy used to, try and beat the man down the wing, get those crosses in, and gone are the days now. We tend to have inverted wingers. I think we discussed it a few times, haven't we? But I mean, I used to love watching, Kevin Keane, Stuart Slater. They weren't the most technically gifted. They weren't. They weren't show ponies. That came years later. But they were just out and out wingers. Speed, not so much. A cracking pace, but the effort and the the commitment that they always gave. Would always do the job. Cal, behave yourself. One of them names doesn't even belong in the same breath as the 2 players I've just mentioned. I'll let you work out which one doesn't belong in the same breath as the others that have been mentioned. He couldn't cross the fucking ball. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Yes, lovely, and Brady as well. He features heavily in my final game, my second game. Gatesy.
Sorry. Have you just seen Scott's latest thingy? Have you seen how many subs we've got?
What's that?
Gatesy.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. I can see it.
Okay. We need 6 more, guys. We need 6 more. Don't forget.
Share this with your
Don't
friends,
forget, you get the
family.
bonus of seeing me dressed up as a female cartoon hippo, and at least 300 quid goes in the bin of Isla's treatment fund. So
We're
I
all
don't
in
really
on that.
care if they're football fans, West Ham fans. I'm not really too bothered what they're interested in. All they need to do is hit subscribe, and if they never see a single second of us, it really doesn't matter. Just get them subscribed. Job done. Tell your friends.
Wow. Sorry, I had to interrupt. I was shocked.
That's breaking news. That's breaking news there, mate.
Kim White, we need to do it at the bottom. We need to do the banner at the bottom now.
Yeah.
Gatesy, do your button clicking before you start getting into your third and final game, Mr. Gates. Talk to me. Tell me.
Third and final game is the last game of the season, let alone the last home game. And this also brings to the end not only the season, but also the career of Liam Brady, who scores the 4th goal in the final game in Upton Park in this season. So just for a little bit of extra bonus content before I go into my match summary, just to point out that it is usually the tradition that before the last home game of the season, there is the Hammer of the Year award. In this particular year, and I don't know if I completely forgot this, but they used to give third place Hammer of the Year. I completely forgot about that. Getting third place was Mr. Trevor Morley. Look at that.
Look at that. Look at that mane. The lion's mane. Look at
brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Runner-up was Stuart Slater. Tricky little winger. But the winner of the Hammer of the Year award, I think this would have proved for you, Duke, a certain Mr. Julian Dix. What a player. What a player.
Probably not with that haircut, to be honest with you. That haircut. Put that back up for me, Gatesy. That haircut. He looks like the young kid out of the Munsters. With that haircut, with a V down the middle of his forehead. Look, this is Dixie. This is Dixie right here. That barn.
I didn't want him to make a sliding tackle with me in front, in the North Bank or the South Bank with them shorts on.
Yeah. Mate, listen, we saw what happened. We saw what happened to Paul Scholes. Let's not mess around. No, it's not the most flattering picture. I remember watching Julian Diggs put Ted McMim in about the first 3 rows of the chicken run. Whether or not he wore them shorts, I wouldn't have given him ankles, mate. He could.
That was about 3 years later, wasn't it? He went off the pitch and he was absolutely raging.
That was actually on TV. I saw that game, JC.
It was on ITV. They had the coverage of the second tier in that day. Is it 92, 93, I do believe, if I remember right.
Possibly. We'll get there.
We will get there. We'll get there. Cahill, that's really unkind. He wasn't 64. He was, I think they said in the commentary that I saw, I think he was 34 when he retired.
Right,
so you're about 30 years out, my son. You're about 30 years out, but never mind. So the synopsis of the match was, so Kevin Keane are one of our other wingers, obviously Stuart Slater and Kevin Keane, they usually played on the wings and sort of cutting in and whatever. So Kevin Keane's dribbling down the right. The ball's played to Slater and then Martin Allen. Martin Allen crossing the ball from the right-hand side. Coming into the box was Kevin Keane again with a diving header, if you please. I mean, the guy was about 5 foot nothing, wasn't he? But a diving header. He made a contact and it flew past the goalkeeper. 18 minutes, we're 1-0 up. Kent will probably confirm this. Again, I like these little details. It doesn't mention it on the match card, just to sort of show you there, guys. It doesn't mention the Wolves team, but I've got a funny feeling the goalkeeper was Mike Stowell. But again, Kent will probably come in and put me right if I'm wrong or confirm one or the other. So that's us 1-0 up after 18 minutes. We then move forward to the 39th minute. Steve Potts was on the right-hand side. He puts a cross in. Another diving header, but not Kevin Keane this time. It was Trevor Morley, third place in the Hammer of the Year awards. 39 minutes, diving header from Trevor Morley to make it 2-0. That's how it stayed until the interval. We then get into the second half. Stuart Robson, ball at his feet, makes a charging run from midfield, gets to about 25 yards from goal, and he hits a right foot pile driver that ends up bottom right corner. And that's 2 minutes into the second half, and the game's pretty much done there, isn't it? You're 3-0 up, you're at home, and it's the last game of the season, so it's party time. And as I say, this was the last game that Liam Brady played as a professional footballer. And what a way to sign off. So we're in the 88th minute here now, ladies and gentlemen. We've got the ball. We're building it up patiently from the back, bringing it forwards. Just outside the centre circle in the opposition half, the ball comes to Liam Brady, who goes on a little bit of a run, bringing the ball forward. And then he unleashes. He cuts one way, leaves the defenders for dead. Left foot drive from about 20 yards, and the whole place went absolutely mad. And I don't know if you guys remember, and guys of a certain age will remember this. This was usually a little bit of a tradition on the last home game of the season. Cue the pitch invasion, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Everybody came piling onto the pitch. They're dancing, they're jumping up and down, they're slapping players on the back, and it was all really jovial. There was nothing nasty about it. And yeah, that was the end of the season. And as I say, that was the end of a footballing, you know, whether you'd call him a legend. I'm not too sure that Liam Brady I would call a footballing legend, but he was certainly a very good player who had a great reputation, and he signed off his career in the best way possible with the last goal and the last game of the season before he drew down the curtain on his career. 4-0 West Ham.
I mean, yeah, he was. I mean, Andy, you said it earlier about him being at his best. I've got to say, I absolutely love Liam Brady. I love watching him play. Yes, he was at the tail end of his career when he came to us, but he was outstanding. I used to love watching him play. You know, I can't wax lyrical enough about him. Some good games there, Gatesy. You've again, it's good. I like listening back, and you guys obviously you do your homework when you do these. Me not so much, but you know, the pub's open. That's what I'm going for. So I'm gonna move on to my other game. My other game, the reason this season's so special to me, the reason this game is so special to me. It was my first ever journey to Upton Park. It was the first time I'd ever gone to a live game to watch, you know, my then heroes. Um, I I have to say. The whole journey of going up to the ground and it all sticks, you know. So basically, I was an 11-year-old boy. My mum and dad used to be landlords or stewards and stewardesses of the old style working men's clubs, and obviously, I was West Ham mad, West Ham crazy kid. And one of the guys who used to drink in the pub at my mum and dad in the club. My mum and dad knew him for a good number of years. He he offered to take me to a West Ham game, and Alan Jarvis, his name was. He was an elderly gentleman. Then he's probably no longer with us. You know, 30 years down the line. In fact, 30 years this year. My first ever game of West Ham, or 30 years last year. Jesus. Um, he took me to. So he asked my mum and dad if they wouldn't mind him taking me to the West Ham game, and you know, a few weeks of badgering and pulling on the arms of my mum. Please let me go, please. They relented. And that was the days I remember him picking me up in Erith. We got on the train and just the excitement for an 11-year-old of going to the game and you know getting off the train and walking down Green Street and just the bodies and everything else, the colours, the noise, the smells. It was just,
Yeah, the
it was
smell.
something else. You know, it was everything, Andy. You know, it gets me emotional because I remember all of that, but I just don't remember parts of the game, and it frustrates me because obviously I was so into it. Um, we got there. I got myself a program. Um,
Yeah.
at 80p, I think it was then. I don't know. And we walked round. We were behind the goal, and for the life of me, I want to say I was behind the goal where the goals were scored, but I honestly can't remember. Um, Looking back on highlights on YouTube, um, I don't remember being in the stand where there was a big gap between the home fans and the away fans. So I do believe I was at the other end of the pitch because I do actually remember being right behind the goal when the goalkeeper took a clout to the head and ended up being bandaged up. So my first game at Upton Park was at home to Swindon on I can give you a date. Hang on. Okay, yeah, Saturday, the 9th of September, 1989. Like I say, I was an 11-year-old kid.
Mm.
You know what? I was a 10-year-old kid. I was 10. Turned 11 in November of that year, so I was 10 years old. Um, Martin Allen scored for West Ham
Yeah.
at the end that was to become the Bobby Moore end. You know, in front of the away fans, or behind the goal was a big section that was fenced off. I remember getting to the ground and we come in at the back, obviously at the top of the terraces, and I just remember being lifted down to the front, being literally passed over people's heads, all the way down to the front and standing on the milk cartons that were behind the wall, so we could see over it. I remember being there. Um, Leaning on the wall right behind the goal, literally was, I could probably touch the net if I'd leaned over. And Martin Allen scored for West Ham that day. Some good work by Mark Ward and Liam Brady down the left-hand side. Some really good interchange into play. Liam Brady receives the ball from Mark Ward and actually lays a piercing ball between, the left back and the centre. Sorry, their right back and the centre back, and Ward gets to the byline, pulls back a really good cross. It misses a couple of players in the box, and Martin Allen steps into it and hits a cracking, kind of half volley. Some might say he scuffed it. For me, the first goal I saw at Upton Park, it was a great volley. And it beats Fraser Digby low down to his right, and the ball ends up in the back of the net. Only knowing by watching the highlights that it was Martin Allen. I'm not going to lie to you. If you'd asked me before it's in the highlights who had scored, I wouldn't have had a clue. John Gittins scored for Swindon in the second half, and I remember Fraser Digby making some cracking saves. I do actually remember the saves. I remember that I was right behind that goal. I remember him taking an absolute clout to the head, like I say, and he got the old bandage wrapped around it, and the fans were singing "There was only one Terry Butcher." Um, Obviously, the memories, So it was. I came away from that, and honest to God, it was a good number of years before I went back, and I mean a very, very good number of years before I went back. I was saying that no, I went back when I was 16, so five years, and then it was a good number of years. I only went to two, two games, probably before I hit my 20s. My missus is responsible for getting me into going back. Cheers, Ken. Thank you very much, sir.
See you next week.
Thanks, Kent. Take care.
I I was hooked. I was hooked, but unfortunately, my mum and dad being publicans and much the same as me now, obviously I feel like I've come full circle. It's the reason
Yeah.
I don't have a season ticket is that Saturdays are a landlord's time to be at his pub, but I can't get away from that. I have to be. Um, Possibly, Ken. I wouldn't. That's your forte, my friend, not mine. Um, I
If he
don't get to
did,
go
it
to
was
games.
only a fleeting visit. He might have done. Do you know?
I'm
He
gonna
may
check. I'm
have
When
gonna.
you
done.
sort of
I'm
like you
gonna check.
think, yeah,
Guess
when
you're
sort of
gonna
like
go up,
someone
boys.
says did such and such play for us, and I'm like no, and then all of a sudden you think, hang on a minute, they might have done maybe on loan or something like that. Go on, I,
Go on, carry on. I'm having a look.
I'm
Bit
trying. I'm
like
trying to
Peter
remember
Shilton. Peter Shilton joined us for a while, didn't he? If
because
I
I know he was
remember
he was
rightly.
at Manchester United before he. I'm sure he was at Man United before he was at Swindon.
Yeah, it was at Man
No,
United.
I mean,
Yeah, it was at Man United before Swindon. Then he went Palace, Barry, Huddersfield, QPR, Purfleet, and then Kidderminster Harriers.
Oh right, so he wasn't with us then. No.
Well, he might have not
unfortunately,
played. They only just normally show appearances, don't they? He may have actually been
Are you
maybe.
on
signed, but
Wikipedia?
yeah, I'm gonna look somewhere else.
Yeah, no. If he was on loan, it would show it there as well. So
Uh, uh,
no,
yeah,
Oh,
sorry,
maybe
John.
we're
I don't know
still
if it.
none the
I don't know if
wiser.
it might be thinking of Perry Suckling. Perhaps I know he was
Oh no, he did. Yeah.
because Mark mentioned him earlier about Perry Suckling because he came to us on loan in this season, and this was just the reason he came to us. And again, Mark sort of like there was a little bit of a connection between the two because Mark mentioned
Right,
earlier that Nigel Martin became the first £1 million goalkeeper when he went from Bristol Rovers to Crystal Palace, and he was replacing Perry Suckling, who obviously came to us on loan during the course of this season. And I don't know if you remember, he got a degree of infamy, if you will, during the course of this season because he was the guy that was in goal for Palace when Liverpool smashed them 9-0.
Yes.
or he went for a free transfer, except for Man United to Swindon for 336,000, and all the rest were free transfers.
Mm,
Madness
there you
nowadays.
go.
Boys, that brings us really to the end of 88, 89. Obviously,
How many of the years?
oh, Andy, you cheeky thing. Yes, Sam really is. I do apologise. So, obviously, as Gatesy mentioned earlier, before the final game of the season, it was always the done thing to present the Hammer of the Year. And obviously, Julian Dix received this season's Hammer of the Year. If I'm honest, I'm not going to go against that. That man was my hero, or the hero that I saw play. Um, is the reason that I wore number 3 on the back of my shirts for school and for even just buying the shirts with my name on the back. It was always number 3. So I certainly am not going to go against the fans of that season. So no, mine was Mr. Dix. Andy, yours.
Mine was Kevin Keane, mate. He played. He played.
Good choice.
Whenever all the games what I watched, he was heavily involved. I believe he played the most league games out of all the squad that season, and he also featured and scored quite a few goals as well. So he was very crucial for us and heavily involved. And like I said, I don't have like memories of him. Obviously, I'm just watching it, but I'm guessing there's the stuff what he does off the ball, which never appears on the highlights. But from what I've been told by people and speaking, he was a very, very unappreciated player. I've been told.
Yeah, I'd say so. To be fair, I mean, I always liked Kevin King. Again, as I mentioned earlier, him and Stuart Slater were always the two that I really enjoyed watching. Used to love them getting on the ball. Like I say, I can understand why you picked him. Like you say, a lot of what you said during your 3 games there, at least, he was mentioned, in assists and goals and everything else. So I get why you picked him. It's again, it's just what you've seen there on the highlights, and you've got to go from that. Um, Casey, your hammer of the year, please.
this fella, Stuart Slater, he was absolutely mustard as far as I remember. He tricky, really sort of bright, attacking player, intelligent, quick, nimble, just really, really good player from what I remember of him. And obviously, he came to the fore, I think, 12 months later. We'll obviously talk about it next week in the FA Cup quarter-final against Everton.
I'm really not talking to you anymore.
Oh, sorry.
No,
But,
no, in all fairness, one of my favourite goals that I ever remember seeing, for whatever reason, was that goal. I absolutely love it. Again, it's a goal that sticks in my mind. Yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, he was my Hammer of the Year. I thought he had an excellent season, in my opinion. I mean, he was runner-up in the Hammer of the Year award to Julian Dix. So I think it's fair to say that he wasn't. It's not sort of like out of left field comment to say that Slater was could have been in contention for it. So yeah, no, I thought he was a cracking player, and just a shame that he left 2 seasons later. I think he went to Celtic, and his career sort of never sort of hit the heights again after that. But you know,
No.
a lot of players when they leave West Ham, you know, it's downhill all the way, isn't it? Really.
Well, what can we say?
Really important question, Dick. Really important question.
No, Stacey. I think I've got a couple of
We
bottles
might need
lying
one.
around. Okay.
Yeah, where's that?
You can have yours at the weekend. Kent's just mentioned there that not only is it the Stuart Slater goal against Everton, another big milestone which we say here. Again,
Went through his legs, didn't it?
It did. I remember listening to it on the radio. Gatesy, this one again. I wasn't privileged to get to Upton Park a lot as a kid. Sadly, never. My mum and dad doing what they did. Obviously, it was very difficult to get me to games. Mark, you know what? I was going to mention that a few moments ago. Actually, this season finished, and we walked into a World Cup, which, to be fair, again, I have significant memories of. Some good, some hilarious. Again, I may well talk about some of the games and some of the memories from that next week. I might spend the first 10, 15 minutes talking about that World Cup, because it was, as you say there, it did change football. It certainly did bring it back to the forefront. It certainly did change the way that English fans were looked upon. I think that year, because on the whole, for the majority of it, they behaved themselves. I think they had to, for the most part. But England's star certainly rose during that World Cup, and certainly several of the players. So there's Gatesy. I'll let you talk us through that. That's your bit.
Yeah, so that was our league record at the end of the season. Played 46, won 20, drew 12, lost 14. We scored 80 goals, conceded 57 for a goal difference of plus 23. 72 points by the time the last game was played. And we finished 7th of 24, and we missed out on the playoffs by 1 position and only 2 points. So if we could have turned the draw into a win, or turned the 2 defeats into 2 draws, we'd have been in the playoffs, and who knows what would have happened. That year, the playoffs were contested by, as I recollect, I think it was Swindon Town and Sunderland. Interestingly enough, Sunderland were beat 1-0. However, they were the team that were promoted. Can you remember what happened?
Swindon, were they not booted out because of the whole Lou Macari backhander jobby? Is that right?
Correct. Yes, it was because of the financial irregularity, shall we say?
Yeah.
And despite the fact Sunderland lost 1-0 in the playoff, they actually got promoted when Swindon were kicked out. So, it's one of those. Who knows what might have happened if we'd have got that extra 2 points? Because the team that finished in the last playoff position, if I remember rightly, was Sunderland. and our goal difference was far better, far better. So if we'd have been level on points, we would have got in on goal difference, but it's just one of those things.
Well, Gatesy, you say there about changing points there. There was a point in the season, 25th of November. We lost 5-4 to Blackburn, and it actually began a run of 6 games, and we picked up 1 point. We actually lost 5. We lost to Blackburn 5-4. We drew with Stoke 0-0. Lost to Bradford 2-1. Lost to Oldham 2-0. Ipswich 1-0 and Leicester 1-0. You stay in there, really only took a couple of goals in that to try and turn those results around. I think it was that run of 6 there. I think it was our worst run of the season. Just having a quick look. And it was the worst run of the season that we went on, where we just didn't pick up anything.
All we needed.
Yeah.
But just to put a little bit more.
In fact, a whole of December, we picked up 1 point of 5 games.
But just putting a bit more meat on the bones as far as the story of the season is concerned, our top goal scorer was Jimmy Quinn with 13 in the league. However, in all competitions, it was Jimmy Quinn and Julian Dix with 13. Our highest home attendance of that season was 25,892, which was against Newcastle United on the 11th of November 1989, with our lowest home attendance coming at 12,187 versus Birmingham City on the 4th of October 1989. With our average home league attendance, bearing in mind we was in the second tier, ladies and gentlemen, so this this wasn't too shabby. 20,270.
I think that was higher than our average this season before.
Say again.
I think that the average was high, that average was higher than the season we got relegated. I think
it may well have been, but then again, I suppose in fairness, we was getting smashed the week before, the year before, sort of like week on week. Whereas here we was doing a little bit better. I think it's fair to say. As for our cup exits, we had a little bit of a nightmare at Torquay. I remember that one. I do remember that quite well. Unfortunately. Away at Torquay United, we lost 1-0 and we got to the semi-finals of the League Cup for the second year in a row. But yeah, Duke touched on it earlier. We lost the first leg 6-0 at Boundary Park, pissing down with rain on the old synthetic pitch with the the ball bouncing here, there and everywhere. We then went back to Upton Park a little bit later. We got a 3-0 victory there for a 6-3 aggregate defeat. Obviously we've done this one. Hammer of the year. The winner was Julian Dix. Runner-up was Stuart Slater. Third place was Trevor Morley. And before I forget, because I don't think we've brought this one up. Ta-da!
Hey!
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the squad. As you can see it there. Tells you at the bottom. So back row from left to right, you've got Paul Hilton, Gary Strodder, Phil Parks, Tony Gale, Alvin Martin, Alan McNightmare, Stuart Robson and Leroy Rossinia. Middle row from left to right, you've got Kevin Keane, Steve Potts, George Paris, Ray Stewart, Paul Ince, Eamon Dolan and David Kelly. And the front row from left to right, we've got Mark Ward, Julian Dix, Frank McAvenny, Liam Brady, Stuart Slater, and the legend that is Tommy McQueen.
They look so happy, some of them, didn't they?
Oh, didn't they just?
It looked like he was going to go for the cameraman, just looking at it.
Yeah, I don't think they were sort of like, a lot of them wanted to be there. David Kelly looked like he wanted to be somewhere else.
To be fair, though, I mean, it was a Division 2 side. Again, it was one of them ones, wasn't it? You can't blame them at the end of the day. We were a big club that we fell by the wayside there, and there were some real tough times coming up being West Ham fans. As we mentioned before, Gates, in the years to come, there was some real suspect characters in and around the ballroom and stuff. There was real suspect, monetary decisions that were made, and you know what? I certainly won't say that they made the 3 that we've got now look like saints. but I'd probably go as far to say that they make the three that we've got now look like Saints. It's some of the decisions that were made, and again, I don't want to I don't want to cover too much. Obviously, we've got the years to come, but things like the bond scheme and the fans having a sit-in the middle of the pitch at the end of the games and stuff. There was some real bad times coming up,
Yeah.
and considering that we'd come out of a really good season in 85, 86 when we started these, what 5 years ago now, the 5 seasons that we've done. We could have been forgiven for thinking that 85, 86 was the year to start, and the start of something big, and obviously you see us fall by the wayside, and it's the West Ham way, unfortunately. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this evening, Gatesy. Much appreciated, buddy. I know, obviously, the reason the screen up and everything else, just you've hit a wall. You've hit a wall, mate, and it's fully understandable, and it gets to the best of us at times, to getting tired and all the rest of it, and then looking like you do. I mean, the bag's under your eyes, mate. I see you come up on the camera earlier. That was down to your nostrils. Like you've got to get some cucumbers and shit on that, mate. You know what I mean? Just go have a facial.
I'm saving myself for tomorrow. For anybody that's watching that's wondering why I've got the camera turned off, I'll be honest with you, and the boys know, I'm just lounging around here in a pair of boxer shorts and me socks, and I'm just pottering around the house. I'm pottering around the house. I'm not in front of me computer. I've got it on my phone, and I'm sort of like I'm doing bits and pieces as I go along. And I just sort of said, people don't want to see all that nonsense going on, so I've spared you, dear viewers, all of that crap. So I've just thought I'd turn the camera off. I'll jump in when I need to, and that's fine. So
no one needs to see you in a pair of boxer shorts that are like
they don't. And if Katie's still here, she's probably
90 hits. You know what I mean? Now, they're silky and short. We know.
But
if Katie's still here, bless her, she's probably just thrown up.
I've just thrown up. I won't worry about that. No, Andy.
The most important bit, though, for next year, 3rd of October, I was born next season.
There you go.
So
Fo's in. You've kept quiet, Fo.
Well, I mean, he's nailed it there, though, hasn't he? With your silky boxer shorts that you've got on. Do you reckon on the front they've got the big dog on there? Do you reckon he's got something like that on his boxers, Andy? Do you reckon that's
Yeah.
Don't you start.
Or Mr. Bump?
Mr. Hippo.
Cheers, boys.
Mr. Hippo.
Oh, I need you, don't I? And for those of you that are watching, don't forget, guys, subscribe if you haven't already. And if you know anyone that you think might be a West Ham fan, get them to subscribe. If you know anyone that's a football fan, maybe not a West Ham fan, get them to subscribe. If you know anyone that's not interested in football at all, get them to subscribe. If you know anyone that's not even interested in sport in any way, shape, or form, just get them to subscribe. Just get them to subscribe. Get us to 300. I can wear this Hippo's outfit. We can put 300 quid into Isla's account.
Yeah, 300 quid from us free.
Yep, and so please get the message out there. Get them to subscribe. Get us to 300, and let's try and do a little bit of good here, guys. Let's try and help this little girl out, and make me look like a complete pillock.
Fo doing work.
Speaking of which, Gatesy.
Yep.
Knock yourself out, son.
Okay, so for those of you that are still watching, either live or on repeat, so this is the information that you need if you want to make a donation to Isla's fund. And if you don't know who Isla is, she's a 6-year-old girl, and unfortunately, she is very ill with neuroblastoma. Now, this is a cancer, ladies and gentlemen, that there's no treatment for in the NHS. And it's really aggressive, really rare, tends to affect children. And in this case, that's exactly what it's done. So her family have got to take her wherever it is in the world to get the treatment, save her life. There's no other way of putting it. And time is of the essence. They've still got to pay for that. They've got to pay for the treatment, flights, accommodation, living costs. The bills are still coming in the UK. In the, at the best of times, this would be really, really, really troublesome and testing and stressful and all the rest of it. You're doing it in the middle of a global pandemic. My God, I don't know how this family are coping. I really don't. So we at Falls from Iron and all of the guys from the West Ham YouTube community are behind this campaign. You've got a PayPal page there. You've got a Just Giving page there. And we would encourage you to give generously. There is no donation that you can give that would be too small, from £1 upwards. The more the merrier, of course, but anything you can give will be accepted with a great deal of gratitude. And whether you can or whether you can't donate, all we would also ask you to do is to take this banner, take the message that's on this banner, copy it, paste it to your social media pages, your WhatsApp, send it to your friends, to your enemies, to your work colleagues, to your family, to the bloke down the bottom of the road, your milkman, everyone. Pester them, because this is seriously, guys, this is life and death. Okay, this is a life and death situation for a 6-year-old girl, and we want this to be a happy ending. And you guys can help, so please do. Thank you.
I mean, listen, guys, we are, to be fair, me and Gatesy, just a pair of twats, really, in the grand scheme of things. That came up with an idea that, we could that we could do this, and to be fair, with the help that we've got from everyone within the West Ham community, Andy coming to us with this idea, James Fever with the over at Hammers Polls, give them a subscribe, but not until we've got the 300, please. James Fever over at Hammers Polls, who gave us the idea for the Clareton View on a Tuesday. It's all fun and games while we do it, and we have a real good laugh and a joke on some
West Ham
videos.
Online as well, if I may give a shout out to West Ham Online.
Yes.
Because it was his idea for Hammer's Shocks. I've got to give him credit for that. So any of you guys that are not too sure, West Ham Online has an excellent podcast on Spotify. And again, I would thoroughly recommend that to you. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so.
Yeah, I mean, listen, with the amount of effort that me and Gatesy, in the grand scheme of things, don't really put into organising this. I come into this literally ad hoc. Whatever happens, happens. And you probably see that on 90% of what we do. Gatesy does a lot of research for the things he comes in. Andy below me certainly sits and trawls through, season after season to make these shows work. And for them, I appreciate it. But you know what, guys? For all the fun and games that we have and the stupidity that we throw out there at times, the important message is that we try to raise this money for Isla. And you know what? Listen, 300 subs. What were we away? 6, were we, guys?
Last time I looked, we was 294. So we just need 6 more, guys. I mean, obviously, we want to keep on growing. We want to keep on doing this for as long as you guys will put up with us. But
let's get the 300 and see where we can get afterwards. Because you know what, Gatesy, we need to come up with something for when we hit 400 next, mate. Yep. You and me have got to come up with some sort of crazy bullshit, ridiculous idea.
Turn? It'll be Andy's turn, surely.
Yeah, it'll be my turn.
We'll get him to drink a load of turbo shandies or something, shall we?
Oh, dear God, no.
Anyone who's around tomorrow for the preview, I will make another appearance tomorrow. Just so use her in. That's another reason.
No.
Subscribe for tomorrow.
Because you're going to see Andy pissed.
Yeah.
I'm going to be watching it from your wrist.
Dear, oh dear. Mark's asking a question, Nosey.
Cross Hammers, Mark. They do them on DVD. I think I paid like 30 quid, including postage. It comes in a... Bloody hell, I'm sending it. 1 sec, if you got a sec. Comes in a nice little tin like this. And you get all the season reviews from 1986 all the way through. So, yeah, that's where I get them from. I know they're on YouTube, but they come in DVDs like that, and then you can watch all of them, and it's a great.
And now, if I'm right in thinking, Andy, they're about 4 hours long each, aren't they? Some of them, like
Some of them, yeah. There we go.
madness, absolute madness. There you go,
Yeah.
guys. That's where he gets them from. It's to be fair, some of the early stuff, Andy, and obviously, it's just rugby filming, isn't it? It's rugby filming. But you got to think, guys, these are coming back from 30 odd years ago. It's crazy. Right, I'm done, boys. Anything you guys want to wrap before we wrap up?
No.
Yeah, all I was going to say is don't forget that tomorrow, if I remember correctly, 7 o'clock, we are doing our pre-match discussion, guys, for the visit of the London Blues. I'm not going to refer to them as their other name because at the minute they don't deserve for me to recognise them as anything other than a sports franchise. That's what they wanted to be. So I'm going to say, okay, fine. They want to be a sports franchise. Then they are the London Blues soccer team. So yeah, join us for that tomorrow. Duke and I will be on there with
guest appearance
guests and all sorts of chaos going on. And again, please tell your friends, tell your family, and spread the word because, as I say, it's not just about us. We enjoy it, and that's great. But every single broadcast that I try and at least do one mention for Isla's Fund. And it's just about shining a light on this horrible, horrible disease for this, not just for Isla, but for everybody that's fighting this absolute bastard of a disease. And again, for those of you that have seen a couple of recent streams with me on it, you'll know the story why this is something I'm particularly passionate about, is because there's a good friend of mine that lost his daughter at the age of 9 to this very cancer. She fought it for 5 years and she just couldn't cope with it anymore. And unfortunately, she died in my friend's arms. And that is something I saw up close and personal. And I don't want to have anything, if I've got anything to do with it, I want to try and make sure that I'll do all that I can with the platform that I've got with Duke alongside me and Milesy and all of the guys that help us, that we want to try and help this family as much as we can. And as I say, it's not about the subscribers for me, and I know for Duke as well. That's nice. That's a nice little byproduct of it. But we're trying to entertain you guys. We're trying to inform you guys. But at the same time, there's a very important message that's associated with it. That this is a cancer for which there's no treatment in this country, guys. And not only do we need to try and get the money to help this little girl out to get her beyond this and to live her life the way that it should be lived, but also to try and sort of like raise the awareness that this is a cancer that we need to have treatment for. We're the 5th biggest economy. I'm getting a bit political now, but it is, like I say, it's something I'm quite passionate about, and so you'll have to forgive me. We're the 5th largest economy, and we don't have a treatment for this thing, and I find it quite staggering. I find it quite disgusting. And anyway, I'm going to stop there because I'm going on a bit. So Thank you for listening, guys.
And before we go, if anyone does want to come on, we say it every week. Anyone wants to make an appearance, especially next season, because that's a quite a good season, just message us and we'll get you on.
Absolutely. We're all one family, guys.
We are indeed. Gatesy, one last thing from me to you. Never apologise for being you. Never apologise for being passionate about what we're trying to do here and for the reasons behind it. I don't want to hear you do that. You're a great guy. Listen, everything we do is, like I say, fun and games. Just like you've said, we try to entertain people, try to have a bit of fun, but there does need to be a serious side at some point. And you know what? If that's it, let's get it done. And just for Kieran, I'm going to end on that. Boys, got 2 things to do. Andy, what are we?
We are fucking massive.
And Gatesy?
We are West Ham's Club Blue Army. 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 We hate Tottenham.
And Isla. We are Isla's Claret and Blue Army.
We are
Isla's Club Blue Army. We are Isla's Club Blue Army. We are Isla's Club Blue Army. We hate Tottenham.
Scum.
Oh, sorry, no, I got their name wrong. Sorry, I said them there yesterday. They're not Tottenham anymore, are they? They're the Haringey Cox soccer team. Listen, they all want to be franchises. They want to do all this Americanization bullshit. They can have it. Wankers.
Oh. Good night, guys. We will see you soon.
Come on, you Irons.